In 1950, when the Korean War broke out, almost 2 million United Nations troops from 22 countries took part in the conflict, be it through military or medical support. But it wasn't just humans that fought in this war. Today, we want to listen to the story of a heroic warhorse called Reckless, often referred to as America's greatest warhorse. For that, we now connect to the best-selling author of Reckless, that's the Korean title, or Sgt Reckless, America's Warhorse, Robin Hutton. Hello, Miss Hutton.
Hi, Miss Hutton.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. It is an honor and a privilege to be here, let me tell you.
It is an honor to have you on the show, Miss Hutton. So first of all, Sgt Reckless is your book about a horse that was involved in the Korean War, and it is a Korean horse. Now, in the U.S., it's a required book for enlisted Marines. And 10 years after it was first published, its translated Korean version was released in April this year. We have it right here. So we would like to ask you, how do you feel about the publication in the country Reckless fought for and the country she originated from?
I am over the moon. I am so excited that she is published there in Korea. I have wanted that for years. And Doremi Entertainment, my publisher, they just did a beautiful job on it. And I really want to thank them and Mr. Park Nam-song for taking a chance on it and spreading the word about this great Korean warhorse.
And Miss Hutton, you are known for your affection for military animals. And among that, you even decided to write a book dedicated to the warhorse, Reckless.
Right.
Why was it that it was this horse that you chose? And what was it that you wanted to convey through her story?
Well, when I discovered her story in 2006, I came across it, and I had never heard about her before. And I loved horses, grew up with horses and all of that. And I read 2 paragraphs of her heroics in a book, and I'm like, who's this horse and why have I never heard about her? And I Googled her name, and only 4 things came up on the internet. She had vanished from the pages of history. And when she died, she was as famous as heroes here in America like Lassie and Rin Tin Tin, but you couldn't find anything on her. There were only 4 things that came up on the internet about her. And I thought, this is a travesty. And so it took me 6 years to research and write the book and try to track down the men and women that served with her and get their stories, because I felt that this story needed to be told. And now I'm happy to say that when you Google her name, over 1 million things come up on the internet. So I think it's kind of cool about that.
Wow, Reckless should be really thankful for you having researched into her and made this into this book. And Reckless actually was originally called 아침해 in Korean, which means flame of the morning. It was also a pretty smaller sized horse, although size doesn't always matter. So how did this horse, which was a racing horse, become a military horse?
So when Eric Pedersen, Lieutenant Eric Pedersen, was in charge of the recoilless rifle platoon, and when he saw how hard it was for his men to carry these rounds of ammunition, they were huge and 24 pounds each, and it was very hard for a man to carry more than 2 to 3 at a time. He wanted to find a pack animal to help his men, and so he went to the Seoul racetrack. And he was looking for a horse or a mule or something to help carry the rounds up the hill. And he came across Achimhai. And he said at that time she had the eye of an eagle. And the horse actually went up to him. And what was amazing about her is the young Korean man who took care of her, who owned her. He took such good care of her. She didn't have the wear and tear that the other horses had, who were pack animals and going, carrying the rice with the carts and everything. And so he saw her and they connected, and he paid Kim Huk-moon, the young man who owned her, $250 American for her so he could use her for his unit to help them carry the ammunition up to the gun sites.
Wow,
that's how it all began.
That's where it all began. And it's very impressive to hear. It's impressive and touching also to hear the efforts that animals put into these wars now. So more specifically, what role did Reckless play in Korean War?
So they trained her when she got to the camp. She didn't understand English, so those commands also she had to learn kind of what they were saying to her, what they wanted from her, and they put her through Hutton camp, which is kind of like a boot camp for the Marines that she served with. But she became so good at her job at carrying up the ammunition up to the guns that she would what was known as a force multiplier. She added to the unit because she was able to carry 8 to 10 rounds instead of 2 to 3 rounds up the hill. She got used to the sounds of the battle, so she wasn't afraid of it. She would just keep on going. She made, in this one particular battle that was her most heroic, she made 51 trips up to the guns by herself in one day and carried 386 rounds of ammunition, which is over 9,000 pounds on her back. And she never quit. It was one of the most fierce battles in Marine Corps history. And she was hit with even falling shrapnel. She was hit in the forehead and in the left flank, but she never quit. And she even carried wounded off the battlefield. So what she did during the Korean War at this time really changed the pace of the war. And so 4 months later, after her most heroic feat, the war ended. And the Marines gave Reckless a lot of credit for that at that time.
Ms. Hutton, I'm getting goosebumps while listening to this story. Really, I mean, Sgt Reckless, it was actually the first animal that has been officially ranked with this title. And once you read the book, everyone will agree why that is. I mean, she's been working even independently, even without orders in harsh situations. But she was also awarded with 2 Purple Hearts. Could you also tell us about the significance of this medal?
Yes, so the Purple Heart is the oldest military award that a person can receive for either being wounded or killed in action. And so she got 2 of those for her wounds. And she's really the only animal to have an official ranking and to get this medal. In World War II, a dog named Chips received a Purple Heart, but it was taken away from him because he was a dog. But during the Korean War, they honored it for Reckless because of what she did. And this medal dated back to our very first president, George Washington, and his picture is still, the silhouette or the side view of his face is still on this beautiful medal, this award. And you would get the award, and if for the first time you were injured. But if you were injured a second time, they would pin a beautiful oak leaf cluster onto that ribbon. And then if you were wounded a third time, they would pin another oak leaf cluster on that. Now, after 3 times you were wounded, you would be relieved of your duties and sent home because they just didn't want you to suffer anymore. But it is a huge honor for her to be awarded with the Purple Heart, for sure.
Oh, such a meaningful award that she received. And also, we want to talk about the Memorial Day Parade as well. There is a horse that is involved, similar to Reckless. Can you also tell us about that horse as well?
Yes, so every year for the last basic 10 years, I have been involved in that unit. We get a look-alike Reckless horse. This year, what was so special about it is we had a pack saddle that one of the Marines that served with Reckless and saw Reckless in action had set up for us. He made this pack saddle for the monument that artist Jocelyn Russell did here in America of Reckless. And so this horse rode this pack saddle with these 4 canisters on its back. And they love having her part of this parade because it's such a unique story. And being part of the Korean War, which over here it's kind of the forgotten war, sadly. But they absolutely love her. And to have her in this parade, the national parade on Washington, D.C., honoring the men and women that have died serving our country, it was just, it's been a huge honor for her to be there. And our little unit has usually have a Korean War veteran ride in the Jeep or the truck or the car with me. And we sit there and wave, and it's just a beautiful entry, and people absolutely love it. They love it.
This year, Ms. Hutton, marks the 75th anniversary since the outbreak of the Korean War. And back then, 1,789,000 U.S. soldiers took part and 90,000 were wounded. So among them, it says that the Reckless monuments in the U.S. were said to be a kind of symbol of healing. And even speaking about those wounded soldiers, these Reckless monuments helped veterans who suffered from post-traumatic stress, that is post-traumatic stress disorder, also known as PTSD, of course. So tell us a little bit more about this intriguing story.
Yes, so it was really interesting when we first dedicated the first monuments, to see the men come to these dedications and be part of this. It was such a healing thing for them to be there. And then we have 6 monuments around the country, and our 4th monument that we placed is outside of Chicago. And it's at a farm that work with veterans with PTSD. And she is the iconic symbol of that. And, she did have PTSD. She was not only, I like to say, she wasn't a horse, she was a Marine, because no truer words were ever spoken. But she helped take care of them even on the battlefield. They felt a comfort when she came up to the guns and knew that they were able to be supplied. And then she was a comfort to them in camp. She would eat in the mess tent with them, and she'd drink beer with them, and she'd sleep in their mess tents. She'd sleep in their personal tents at night, and, would be part of the whole festivities around camp. And so she helped them during the war, and then after the war, the men that knew her really felt at peace with her. But she is just that healing symbol because she did suffer from PTSD herself.
I mean, just reading the book, you feel how healing it is, not just Reckless being inside the battlefield, but really what happens afterwards when they all gather together with the horse. But Ms. Hutton, you just mentioned the 6 monuments of Sgt Reckless in the U.S., but there are also 2 in Korea, one in Yeoncheon, Gyeonggi-do Province, and one on Jeju Island, and that was just erected last year. So what does the presence of these statues and the horse itself mean to the 2 countries respectively, and in terms of the South Korea-U.S. bilateral relationship?
Well, I'm just thrilled that there are 2 monuments there, and I have news for you that we are bringing a replica of the 6 monuments that we have in the United States. Our very last one, we have gotten permission from the Marine Corps to bring her to Camp Humphreys, which is the largest military installation in the world outside of the United States, and it's about 40 miles, I think, south of Seoul. She will be placed there, and she'll be next to the Marine Corps Forces Korea there at Camp Humphreys. And we are just so thrilled to be able to take her back to Korea to be with the men and the Marines that she served alongside. I am hoping that when this story really starts to break out about her, and this book, as I said, I am thrilled to have it out there. There was the Korean man who owned her and his family, and he sacrificed this horse for $250 so he could get an artificial leg for his sister who lost her leg in a landmine accident. And that sacrifice was just so touching, and his loss was the Marine Corps gain. But I'm hoping that maybe there is somebody out there in Korea that might know this story and come forward. And that's what I'm really, really excited about. I just hope that her story just grows and grows, because I know that how I felt when I came to Korea in 2016. I felt the love and appreciation of the Korean people for the love and sacrifice that the American people, gave during the war. And honestly, I'd never felt such love and appreciation. It was just amazing. And so I'm just truly, truly grateful that this story has a foothold now, because I really do feel that between the two countries, there is a common bond there with this tiny little horse. And I just think that's amazing.
Well, thank you very much, Ms. Hutton, for connecting with us and sharing this incredible story about Sgt Reckless in your book. Just as the Korean War should not be a forgotten war, let's not forget the noble deeds of course, all the troops, but also the war animals like Reckless. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I really, really appreciate it.
And thank you, Bella. We're going to see you back again soon.
Yes, I'll see you back soon.